Let's bring our palms together at our heart, close your eyes softly, and allow the way that you're sitting, just allow your hips to settle down, and then feel the crown of your head as it lifts up. Even if it's a slight lift, notice how you can ground and you can lift simultaneously. And then take a deep inhale in through the nose and a big exhale. Let's do that one more time together. Inhale from the tip of your tailbone to the crown of your head. Then exhale from the crown of your head down to the tip of your tailbone. Release your hands and open up your eyes. And welcome to Astro Yoga Chat. I'm Kate.
And I'm Natalie. Hi. Well, we're back.
And we
I
have a brand new series.
have a brand new series. Yes, we are actually going into the natural zodiac, starting with Aries. And just before we start, I just wanted to say a funny thing, which I realized. So if you maybe can hear it, I'm a little bit sick. And I saw it in my chart, when all the planets start moving into Vedic Capricorn, which is my sixth house of health. Last week I was like, am I going to get sick? All the planets are moving in there. 2 years ago, it was the same thing. So, yes, it happened. And it was in the stars. But it's getting a little better. So, yes, we have a new topic today, Aries. And I took a few notes and we can discuss it. So, it's a cardinal sign. So, the cardinal signs are initiating things, like the cardinal signs actually initiate the seasons:
Mhm.
Aries, spring, Cancer, summer, Libra, fall, and Capricorn, winter. So it's cardinal initiating. It's fire and it's connected to Mars. So they give it attributes like being aggressive and competitive, because many athletes have that, or warriors. It's the sign of the warrior. It's very independent, impulsive. Initiators have that. Pioneers have strong Aries planets. It's self-centered, adventurous, dynamic, headstrong, and can be angry. And I actually just started, also dipping into evolutionary astrology, a different path, and very interesting. So they work with two pictures. One of them is the picture of a cave. So it's dark, you're inside a cave and you see the light, and you want to emerge into something unknown, like break free from something, but you don't know what the new thing is. And the other picture is the baby. And I heard that before, like also in Vedic, like the first sign, Aries is like a baby, it's self-centered, it has their needs and does things, but it's also not conditioned. And it's connected to the environment, like they're very, very impulsive doing things. They bump into things and then they get the feedback from their environment, and then they start to self-reflect and adjust. So they're not people who think first, like they react first. And of course, if you talk about Aries, you probably only have your sun in Aries, but there's people, they have like a stellium, like 2, 3, 4 planets in Aries. And of course, then that gets stronger. So yeah, we're talking about a fiery sign here.
Mm. And Aries is the image of Aries is the ram,
Yes,
and Mars, which is the fiery planet, which
it's
is
the planet of
like
war,
planet
right?
of war and aggression. And now, when Aries, it's Aries season. This is my question for as I don't know if I've used this term yet in Astro Yoga Chat, but like in surfing, whenever you're a beginner surfer, you don't know what you're doing, you're considered a kook, and so so let's say as a kook astrologer, right? So, but like Aries, so if somebody is an Aries, like we're Geminis, right? So like we have these like these qualities or these energies that are with us. And of course, like you mentioned, if there's more of that in different houses and different places, it's stronger and stronger. But as a collective, if we're in Aries season, do you would you say that as a collective, we're all kind of going through this type of energy, or it
Well, I would
depends on
say
where it
yes,
is?
because Aries is initiating spring, and right, are we not all like waking up after winter? It's like, oh, the sun is coming out. I feel some energy, so it's energizing. And yes, I mean, so the sun in Aries season is definitely in Aries. Mercury is never very far, so he could also be in Aries, but you know, the other planets, they could be behind or in front. So we'll actually have to look. But what is interesting about this year, so in summer in Western astrology, the nodes of the moons changed into Aries and Libra. So the north node is in Aries, the south node is in Libra, and they will be there for another year. So there is a collective focus on, you know, doing your own thing and being strong, and unfortunately also like war in the world, and the south node on, you know, letting go of relationships or wrong ideas of peace or being codependent. Yes, so there is a collective thing about that. And what is also very interesting about this time period is that on February 19th, Chiron and the North Node will conjunct in Aries. So there is, I think Chiron has been in Aries for like 5 or 6 years already. So there is a collective wound that we have to look about personality and identity. And with the north node, he's pointing there, well, there's something to be solved. So in our lives, you know, it can be different houses. For me, it's in the 8th house. For you, it's in the 7th house, you know. Um, and for us both, you know, we have actually a nodal flip. So our south node is naturally in Aries. So yes, but there's a collective story about Aries at the moment. And when, you know, planets are making good transits towards Aries, you know, it's supported. And for instance, Pluto has been for 15 years in Capricorn in Western astrology. Squaring all the planets in Aries was very difficult, right? Or the last 6 weeks, Mars was in Capricorn in Western astrology. Squaring Aries was also not so much fun. So for them, you know.
Mhm. And Natalie and I were talking beforehand. It's like, we don't want the, Astro Yoga chat to be like, oh, because of Aries, now we talk about yoga in a sense in the same way, because, we're not trying to like fit puzzle pieces together that don't really make sense. But we can talk about some of these qualities and these attributes of what Aries brings up, and how on the flip side of it, how in yoga we could also talk about it, because there are lots of different tools out there for us to understand ourselves. Whether we talk about the chakras, whether we talk about astrology, human design, you talk about, even, for me, I'm very interested in like the gunas, the modes of nature, so when we think about, let's say, Aries, if I was going to talk about them in the chakra terms, I would say that Aries is very much like fire, passion, Manipur chakra. So it comes from this place of like lighting you up from the inside. And if things get you light up too much, you light yourself on fire, you gotta tame it down. So there's nothing wrong, let's say, with being that athlete, the warrior, being even aggressive. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But when it tilts over to, that spectrum that we talk about, when you tilt over to a certain spectrum, it can then be maybe not so positive or not so helpful in your life. I think a lot when I think about anger, and I think about like the fire that comes up within you with anger. Sometimes you need anger in your life, so that way you push forward and you can make a change.
Yeah,
You can, right?
mm-hmm. You need that. For instance, you know, you said the guna. you know, like Rajasic, also fiery and, you know, a little aggression and going ahead. But for instance, with the pranayama, it's just coming to my mind like we have the Kapalabhati, the fire breath, right? And the Bastrika, when both is forced in and out. So, and we wouldn't use that on a person with high blood pressure, you know, they're already high. So we use in yoga things to balance them out, right? So if you're very lethargic and tired, you might do some Kapalabhati to get the energy going, right? And if you're already very up high, maybe some Nadi Shodhana starting with the left nostril to calm it down. So those are our tools. Or like a person, you know, who's like very stressed and overworked and has burnout, maybe is not going to do a hot vinyasa flow class, you know. Maybe they should do some restorative yoga to get some balance in there and more rest. So
Mhm.
yoga is not just one thing.
Right, right, right. It's like you look at the practice from the place of where you're at the moment. And, you know, knowing yourself and saying, okay, this is where I'm at, and this is what I need. And this is like, what can I do to feed the energies that I'm looking for to find balance? You know, um,
And
I
also for
think,
the sorry, Kate,
no,
for the
no,
quality of, you know, trying new things, I think the practice gives you some courage and, you know, like, yeah, to try new things, you know. It's, I think it's building the character and making yourself stronger. And when we think about those qualities where you like just go headstrong forward and you don't think first, it also gives you some reflection that you like maybe stop for a minute, you know, pause and then do things. So yeah, it's also bringing balance into all of that.
yeah, yeah. And if anyone has, you know, we all know the amount of courage that it takes to enter into a yoga space, especially when you are a beginner, or even if you're not, you know, you've been doing it for a really long time, but to enter into a certain yoga shala, certain ashram, or a type of practice, it takes you releasing a lot of the ego, a lot of the place of like, oh, you know, like what's like that finding that something within you that's like, okay, I'm gonna release now, and I'm gonna walk in, and whatever's gonna happen, it's gonna be okay. Like, that's courage. And I would say, I mean, I have yet to be in an environment like that and then walk out less than when I walked in.
Yeah.
So, you know, in order to make, you know, to have the courage to make, and on, well, I should say, in order to make the changes happen in your life, if you're looking, we're always, this is growth, right? Everything is constantly changing. And you want to explore new directions in your life, you want to try new things, you got to be a little bit uncomfortable. You got to find that place of like, you know, you got to be adventurous like Aries. You got to be, you know, maybe, you know, before, I think when we were talking about like breaking free, you know, break free from some of your, maybe the patterns, or break free from your comfort zone. You know, you got to take a step into the fire and see what you can light up.
And I always like to mention that, you know, yoga is like, you know, practicing for life. So, you know, if you have issues with that, you know, and you're very stuck in your habits, choose a different place in the yoga studio each time, you know, or don't do the pose always like this, or I don't know, like get to know your own patterns, try to break them. Or if you're afraid of doing this pose, you know, am I afraid of doing new things? Or I don't know, it's like, you know, overcoming these things in like small baby steps in the yoga studio and on the mat, that for later on in life when bigger things happen, you're like, okay, so I know what it's like to overcome this fear or me being awkward in this situation.
My yoga teacher, so I have different teachers depending on the type of yoga that I'm practicing, but my power yoga teacher is Brian Kest. And Brian will always create this very safe space for you to be physically challenged, like you're going to die. And you're not going to die, but you feel like you're going to die. And he does it in a way where it's like this very sweetness to him, even though it's really hard. And he'll say, like, if you like, this is the safest space for you to work through your stuff. This is the safest space for you to be challenged, because there's not one person in this room right now that is not challenged in some way in their life, or maybe not at this moment, but you will be challenged. And so learning, that's like, so what you just said, it's like so nice, because then it's learning how to work in that yoga space or feeling challenged. So that way later on, when it comes up, you have like some experience with your breath and your body and understanding your nervous system. And, oh, my heartbeat's going up. Okay, can you slow down instead of reacting? You know, can
Right.
you slow down instead of being maybe more aggressive? Like, use this energy, use your energy for something that, I'm not going to use the word good because I don't like good or bad, you know, but use the energy to your purpose.
Development. Yes.
Yep.
And it does not only work into one direction, like it has to be a very hard class and you have to go through it. It could be like, you're an overachiever and you work so hard, and maybe the lesson is to once in a while just go back into child's pose and take a pause, so you don't yoga is not about pushing yourself to do all these poses. It's about, when do I need a break, and when do I need to push, and when I pull back, and yeah, the
This
balance.
it's so Brian will say in the class, which is always so funny to me because he like curses, like he's very, I don't know if anyone's taken Brian's classes, like, and if you like Brian, of course it's a individual taste kind of thing. I love him. He's been my teacher for over a decade now. But he goes, like, he'll say things like like why, if you're shaking, if you don't, if this doesn't feel good, then why are you doing it? Why are you listening to me, an ignorant yoga teacher? Like, why are you letting me push you to a place? Like, just go down into child's pose. Like, that's what he'll say all the time. He's like, I'm not forcing you to do anything. And that's why he makes his classes so hard. It's like you break. It's not that he's trying to break you, but he's trying to say, it's okay. It's okay to take a break. It's all right. Don't let your ego get in the way over here to make you think that you got to push through. Just, it's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Big, awesome thumbs up to Brian Guest for sure.
Yes. Hmm. So do we have some homework maybe?
Ooh, well, I think it'd be really great for us to, I think from this episode, especially for the ones out there that are, wanting, we're like, if you're listening to this Astro Yoga Chat, then you want to learn more about astrology and put this into your life. So perhaps like, you can write down a few notes, maybe keep like a little journal, and like part of your homework could be like, look at, what are some of the key points that Natalie specifically talked about with Aries, and just like write it down and put it someplace so that way you can come back to it. So that way, I don't know. That's the homework that I say. What homework do you say?
Maybe if you're even more into astrology, I would look at what house is ruled by Aries. That's really interesting. For instance, my ninth house of teaching and traveling is ruled by Aries. So when I teach, sometimes I say I come with the whip, but I'm not a mean person, but I'm very fiery because, I'm inspired myself, that's why, so I would have a look like what house is ruled, and we did the series on the houses, so you can go and look like, oh, the eighth house means this, the third house means this. That would be really interesting, and yeah, also maybe even find out what planets, if you have any, are in Aries, because, for instance, if you have Venus in Aries, you might like relationships that are very fiery and they need to be adventurous. Or if your moon is in Aries, you know, your emotions can boil up very fast, you know. I think the most interesting thing about astrology is always like learning about yourself. Like you
Mm.
have a mirror and it's not the actual face, but you know, it's planets. Oh, yeah, I'm like this. That's true. I react like this. So that could be an interesting lesson too.
It is very interesting. And how do people do you have a recommendation of how people can find their chart? Or do they just like, like in order for them to see? Yeah.
Yes, actually on astro.com. It's a website and they have free horoscopes like where you can like make your own chart and you just need, you know, date of birth, the city you were born in and the time would be good. Then you have the house system. Otherwise you just get the planets, you know, and you can do it for free. Mhm.
Cool. Cool. And then I'll put that in the note section. Yeah. Great. Awesome. Our new series about the signs. Okay, let's bring our palms together at our heart. And to the ode to give some respect to Aries here as you close your eyes. Imagine yourself in a cave. So let everything be pretty dark. And then as you open up, keep your eyes closed. Just imagine that as you look out into the cave, you can see a light, a small light, as if that light is drawing you to walk towards it, to explore, to step outside. And so I'll take a deep inhale and a long exhale. Release the hands, open up the eyes. Thank you so much.
Namaste.